Perfect. All right. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about why I wanted to do Cutco leadership and kind of what stood out to me about it. And the first thing I'm going to tell you guys about is why I actually wanted to be a leader, what attracted me to the job. The very first thing was the skills that I saw that I could learn from being in leadership. I saw the way Lindley and Michaela were just like basically running the show. I don't know if you guys knew, but Jacob actually took like a week vacation about a week ago, and I saw Lindley and Michaela like running everything, and I was like, how do they know how to do this? And that really attracted me to wanting to be a leader. So they were making calls, they were running the interviews, they were, whenever I'd talk to them, they would give me like great advice and be like, wow, you're like my age and you already know this stuff. So that was really attractive to me in terms of the skills that I would gain as a potential leader. Every time I say win, Jacob's like, no, if so I gotta always check myself. But yeah, so the skills. The next piece was the resume. So I was just picturing this picture. Could you imagine like in 6 years, once we graduate college, you go to your boss and then your boss is like, what did you do during the COVID season, or what did you do during your college years? And then you're like, oh yeah, I was an assistant manager for a branch that sold 1 million in my first year working there. And then they're like, what? Or even if you're like 500,000 and there was 30 people on our team, that's like still ridiculous. And it's basically like you got the job. So the resume ability and the resume potential was a huge factor for me in drawing me towards wanting to be a part of leadership. But the next piece was the pay. So I don't know if you guys know this, but as an assistant manager, because you take on more responsibility, like you're gonna take on a little bit more pay, and that's like, it changes based on how high up you are. As an assistant manager, you always got to work up the ladder. But that really attracted me to it because I thought, oh man, I'm going to be giving up so much more time, but I'm only going to be making what I sell. And then I actually learned that you actually do get a little bit extra, which is really cool to get that bonus at the end of the month. But I want to pause right here and notice something, point out something. All those things that attracted me to assistant manager were all things that could benefit me at first. So at first, everything I was looking at was, what can it do for me? What can it do for me? And then I realized when I started learning a little bit more about what the managers do and talking to Jacob, that being a manager is not about what it can do for you. Being a leader is not about what you can do, what the team can do for you, but what you can do for the team, right? So I want to talk about what makes leaders valuable. Not why it's valuable to be a leader, but what actually makes the leaders valuable. So the first thing is that leaders help. I can't explain how many times Jacob has like dropped fire lines for me. Lindley's given me like these little one-liners that I use all the time. Michaela, whenever she gives me advice on the little questions I'll ask her, they give me so much help that they don't get more for. Like I'm getting all the benefit and they're just pouring into me. So leaders are helping. Leaders also sacrifice. So Jacob's probably given up like at least 16 hours a week just answering my phone calls. Lindley, maybe a little less, Michaela, a little less, but they all know that I'll talk to them for like 30 minutes if they don't tell me, Evan, you got to stop talking, because I'll just rattle off. So they give up so much time. And that's actually one thing that leaders do, which I find really valuable in them. I see that in them and I appreciate that a lot. The last thing is they care. So I actually have a graphic to explain how much the Cutco leadership cares and what I've seen. So we see this image thrown around quite a bit in Cutco, the day in the life of an entrepreneur, where you get out of your fast start, you're really excited, then you have your first no sale and you're like, oh man, this job isn't for me. Then you work, maybe you get past your first promo, then you're like, oh man, I don't have any recs, I'm gonna quit. I made $100, that's good. But so you go on this up and down, but I edited this picture a little bit to show a day in the life of a Cutco rep. And you notice at those bottoms, it's not a negative. At those bottoms, that's actually when the leadership comes and picks you up. So Jacob doesn't know this, but there was a few times I called him with the intention of quitting, but he talked me off the edge without even knowing it. So there was one time I said, Jacob, this job's not that fun for me. That was probably, it was like right after my fast start. I was like, I can't really do this. Not for me. And then Jacob was like, well, what's not fun about the job for you? He didn't just say, okay, or keep selling. He said, what's not fun about the job? He actually built a plan for me to allow me to keep going. And that was so valuable. Every time you hit that low point, the managers or the leadership or the assistant managers are always there to talk to you and build you back up. And that's so valuable as like as a rep, being able to get that from be assistant managers. So in the wise words of Mr. JM, ask not what Vector can do for you, but ask what you can do for Vector. So for me, I want to be an assistant manager no longer because of what it gives me, but what I can potentially give other sales reps in the future. Thank you.
Awesome.
Woo!